Hi, everybody, and thank you to ChatGPT 102 Beyond the Basics. This is a natural progression part two um, of the very first webinar of this series called ChatGPT 101. During the course of the summer of 2023, we did 3 or 4 webinars on ChatGPT that were basically just explaining all the things that were coming out and that sort of thing. And we sort of reset it into this logical numerical sequence. So please be sure to check out the very first webinar, ChatGPT 101, the basics, that basically explains how to use ChatGPT from scratch. So, with that being said, thank you very much, CP Academy, for collaborating with me and creating this advanced content on AI and ChatGPT and all these things that are sort of this craze and this uh, uh, amount of new information that comes out. It feels like daily when it comes to artificial intelligence. Now, generally in CP Academy, we talk about contexts that are connected to accounting. And while this is not necessarily disconnected with accounting, we are showing you how ChatGPT works sort of in the real world. So then you can start making some connections in terms of how you can creatively use this in your practice, or how will your small business clients will be using this, and what your role as the accountant or advisor might be. So it's extremely important that you understand exactly what's going on. As I mentioned earlier, we have a version one of this webinar, or ChatGPT 101. Well, the slide contains the link to accessing that. We're going to talk about developments in the AI world, necessarily not ChatGPT related and also ChatGPT related. We'll talk about custom instructions in ChatGPT. I find it to be one of the most interesting sort of semi-advanced features of ChatGPT. Then we're going to jump into the paid version of ChatGPT, which is ChatGPT 4 or ChatGPT Plus. We'll talk about the advanced data analysis. We'll talk about Bing search inside ChatGPT. We'll talk about plugins in ChatGPT. And then towards the end, I'm going to mention a couple of Chrome extensions, browser extensions that you can add to your browsing experience that leverage ChatGPT or interact with ChatGPT. And then at the end, we'll discuss alternatives to ChatGPT. Okay, so uh, check out the slides. The link to 101 is there. You can watch the archive webinar to 101. You can do it after, no problem. And there also the live slides for 101 is in there. So we show you how to create a new ChatGPT account. We show you how to fully navigate. We talk about prompt engineering, which is like how you interact with ChatGPT, like what are the questions that you ask and based on the type of results you're trying to get. And then we get into a little bit of the basics of the plus features, which is what we're going to be focusing mostly today. Now, a couple of news related items in terms of developments in the AI world. Number one, Anthropic Claude, which is a competitor to ChatGPT, gets $4 billion from Amazon. So now this is an indication that Amazon is going to get into the AI game, possibly through this partnership with Anthropic Claude. Or Anthropic is the name of the company, Claude is the name of the application. Intuit announces Intuit Assist and something they're calling GenOS, which essentially is going to be AI assistance to the end users throughout the entire QuickBooks ecosystem. So QuickBooks users are going to be able to quote chat with their data, chat with their QuickBooks, and they'll be able to use a ChatGPT like experience to ask questions to QuickBooks about, hey, what's my profitability like? Who are my best customers? That sort of stuff. Now, it's possible that Intuit Assist could also build a accountant version of sort of AI for accountants, but that has not been announced as of the date of this webinar. We suspect that closer to maybe December, end of 2023, Intuit will now come in with what does the accountant version of AI tools look like. But for the time being, they made a very clear announcement that AI and automating tasks inside QuickBooks and connected applications like MailChimp, TurboTax, and that sort of thing will be pretty obvious and pretty and accessible to end users. Third set of news is Microsoft releases Copilot for Windows 11. You're now going to start seeing ChatGPT like chatbots where the user of any any Windows user can now chat with their Windows and it can get tasks done via chat. So it's only going to be a matter of time as they perfect the text interface where you'll be able to have sort of voice interface. So instead of like using a mouse and a keyboard, there might be a future where you would just be talking to the computer and giving the computer instructions. So this is definitely a first look of what that would look like. And Google Bard, which is a competitor to ChatGPT, Google's version of AI chat, gets extensions which allow you to connect your Gmail, YouTube, Google Drive, and other Google products to the chatbot, so it can not only search within its database, but it can search within contextually within your data. And some of the examples that you've seen, from the videos in the internet and different users of Google Bard Plus extensions is people asking Google Bard questions about the contents inside their email. Now, this is only available in the sort of end user version of Gmail, not available in the corporate version of Gmail. I assume that at some point that will be available, and I also assume that when that is available, that might be an extra fee, an extra cost of some sort. So these are like sort of the main news out of, these are the big players in this world into it: Amazon, Microsoft, Google. The big elephant in the room is Apple. Apple has not in any way, shape, or form announced a formal AI strategy. So we're probably pending to see maybe 2024 or something like that. Apple will come up with their AI strategy. Hey, look, in typical Apple fashion, they might come in late to the game, and that's okay because Apple just waits for everybody to just sort of like crash and burn, and then Apple comes out with this super simplified, probably not as powerful version, but easily adopted and usually gets the most amount of adoption, even if it's technically, I guess, inferior. Okay, all right. So let's talk about ChatGPT new features, things that are coming towards the fourth quarter of 2023, things you might start seeing in ChatGPT already. Custom instructions, which was only available in the Plus version and the paid version, is now available in the free version, so we're going to be discussing that. ChatGPT Enterprise came out. It's rolling out slowly for businesses, and it will have private encrypted data and SOC 2 compliance. So basically, if an accounting firm, a law firm, an architecture firm, a medical office wants to start using the power of ChatGPT to use their customer data, their client data, their internal firm know-how data, and wants to avoid or put a roadblock on ChatGPT being able to use that information for training its own database or whatever, ChatGPT Enterprise will offer that. So this is the first taste of what potential uh, uh, data security looks like for sort of professional firms using ChatGPT. ChatGPT gets voice, eyes, and ears now rolling out slowly in this fourth quarter of 2023. You will start seeing ChatGPT answer back with a voice. Simple text to speech. Technology has existed for a very long time, but right now in the iPhone app and the Android app of ChatGPT, you can dictate. So imagine a world where you dictate to ChatGPT and talks to you back, and it's starting to feel like these movies that were portrayed in the 90s and the early 2000s about what chatting with bots and artificial intelligence looks like. And by eyes, you're going to be able to upload pictures to ChatGPT and ask it, what is this, or find something in here. Like I've actually played with it. I put a big picture of like, where's Waldo, and I said find Waldo, and it hasn't found it yet. But it's kind of the concept is having it analyze data and trying to interpret images as well as just text. Bing Search inside ChatGPT 4 is back. So we had it in the summer of 2023. They took it away for some copyright issues that they had, and then they just brought it back like literally this week. So now you'll be able to use ChatGPT Bing search all built in. And ChatGPT 4 expands the cutoff from September 2021 to January 2022. So some of you will start seeing ChatGPT actually mention that it has, I guess, more context, more information inside of its database. That's always been ever since ChatGPT came out. September 2021 has been its limit. Okay, so let's jump into ChatGPT. Let's talk about custom instructions that are available again both in free and plus subscriptions. You turn on the instructions by clicking on your name. Again, you have to have an account, free or paid, to be able to go into ChatGPT. You click on the three little dots and you go into custom instructions. And essentially, custom instructions, you're going to give it context, things that you normally would give ChatGPT as part of your prompt. You give it to it contextually. So every single chat that you create starts within that context. So let's do an example of that. So now I have ChatGPT open, and I'm going to click on the three little dots right there next to my name on the bottom right, and then I'm going to click on custom instructions. So once you click on custom instructions, you see right now it is turned on. To turn it on, you have to click on this little checkbox, and then you tell it the context. So for example, in this example, the context I gave it is, hey, I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA based out of Miami. I specialize in preparing tax returns for small business. Whenever I discuss taxes or income taxes, I want to state the facts known, refer to specific code sections, related tax forms, and tax court cases if relevant. This gives you an actual little cheat sheet right there on the side that says, hey, this is the type of information that you want to put in this section of ChatGPT. So this is the context of who are you, right? So when ChatGPT gives you responses, it's contextual to like who you are. And the second one is how would you like ChatGPT to respond? This is more like the format. Okay, so do you want to bullet points? Do you want it to be creative? Do you want it to be facts, sort of focus on the facts? Do you want it to do strict interpretation of source materials and give tax advice? Also disclose the fact that there could be exceptions, rules, and circumstances. So based on like the last exercise that I did, where I was trying to have ChatGPT help me draft an email to a client that had some generic tax questions, I used this prompt to give me better information. So let's contextually let's just do an example of this. So I'm going to turn off the context, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT a question about tax. So let's say, for example, my client is asking me for sort of generic tax questions, and I'm going to reply via email. So I'm going to put here, I have a client, and I'm going to say I am a tax accountant that is asking me questions about meals and entertainment, and how I can make sure this will be deductible, and maybe I could put something risks associated with being audited in this area. So once again, I basically told ChatGPT who I am, the context of the question, uh, what the question is, and I just click on send in this case, and then ChatGPT will start giving me my original set of answers. Okay, so in this case, ChatGPT, a couple things. I just want to break down what it says. So first of all, it says, hey, there's some common areas where you can deduct. IRS looks this closely in audits. Good. Here's a breakdown of what your client will need to know. So first of all, it says the last update is 2022. This is January 2022. As I mentioned, the date of cutoff got moved a couple of months, which is great. And it'll be a point in time, I would say, in the next 2 or 3 years, where all this stuff will be real time. Like there won't be any delay in information at all. And when we talk about the Bing search capability, we'll discuss how we can essentially make that disappear completely, that gap between cutoff date and real-time information. So now it says, hey, business meals are 50% deductible if they're ordinary necessary as part of conducting business. Great answer. Entertainment, it says here is that they're not deductible, and this means that the cost of taking clients to sports games, concerts, golf outings are not deductible. And then here's some of the tips. Maintain records, stay within reasonable bounds. So great information in there. Okay. So I'm going to ask the same exact question, but now in a new chat in which there are custom instructions. So I'm going to turn on my custom instructions. And again, I already have done all this pre-homework. And let me just update this one. January 2022. I done those pre-homework saying, hey, this is exactly what I want the context to be in terms of when I send something, so I don't have to explain to you from the very beginning who I am and what might I be using ChatGPT for. So I save the custom instructions, and then I'm going to paste the same question, but I'm just going to say, um, help me write an email about meals and entertainment and how a small business owner can make sure. So it's actually the same question, but I didn't have, I can make the question shorter. I don't have to say that I'm a CPA. I don't have to say that it's my client. That's already sort of implied in the custom instructions. Then I'm going to hit send on that. And now it is going to give me, to be clear, it is going to give me a similar set of answers because it's the same underlying database. But it's going to take into context who I am. And in this case, I said write an email instead. And then the email starts getting written. Okay, so this says, I hope this finds you well as we approach tax season. Notice that I never even told that I'm a tax accountant in the prompt. I told it in the custom instructions. So it basically understands that, right? I wanted to share with you some valuable information about meals and entertainment. Understanding tax implications can help you manage beautiful. Okay, so here's an explanation of what qualifies meals and entertainment. Notice that it uses IRS publications in this specific case because I told it in the instructions that, hey, whenever possible, give me IRS publications. And then here's just sort of an explanation of 100% versus 50%, maybe some changes based on the law that could cause that change. Here's some sort of tips to do record keeping. Here's the risk of audit, and it'll just go on and do exactly what I told it to do. And then again, because the context is, hey, I'm an accountant helping my client. Here's a couple of sort of quick tips. Again, another code section um, quote, and then basically ends at the end, and then basically does the email for you. So it's pretty awesome stuff. It's pretty awesome stuff, and you can basically go deeper and deeper on this. And again, we covered prompt engineering in ChatGPT 101. You want to go back and check that out because we talked about some nuances in terms of changing the tone and the style of all this writing. But essentially, this is the difference between using custom instructions and not. So it's slightly nuanced, but it becomes significant. So in the slides itself, I actually put the exact same text that I used in this example. So you can copy and paste that into your own ChatGPT and test it if you want to get similar results. So let's clarify. The free version of ChatGPT, which contains ChatGPT 3.5, has the custom instructions available. Anybody can create a free ChatGPT account. ChatGPT 4, which is the most advanced version of ChatGPT, it's only available in the paid subscription. And you can use the three main beta features, which are add-ons or plugins per se, which is advanced data analysis, Bing search, and additional plugins. Let's now talk about advanced data analysis. Okay, this is a really cool feature in a ChatGPT Plus or the paid version, where you can literally upload files into ChatGPT and tell it, hey, do things with this data. Now, I'll confess that I do work with this, and it's still feels hit and miss like the actual use cases. But I'll walk you through a specific use case where it worked pretty well. The type of files you can upload are just text files, images, documents like a PDF or a doc file, code, so you actually have any code in there, regular data, audio, video. I have not been very successful at getting it to do actual stuff with audio and video. It sort of gets like I upload a lot of my videos to ChatGPT and try to figure out, can you transcribe this? Can you write a summary of this? And it ends up not working very well. So I'm just going to work with like a spreadsheet, so make it a bit more sort of connected to like the accounting world. But these improvements to this, they're coming. So I'm going to go to new chat, and then under chat GPT-4 in the drop down, I'm going to pick the plugin that I want to add, which in this case is advanced data analysis. So once I turn on advanced analysis, you will notice here at the bottom where you can attach the files. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to attach, let's say, a spreadsheet. Okay, so I'll attach a spreadsheet, and just for context, I'll open up that spreadsheet so you know exactly what it's reading. So it's a spreadsheet that kind of looks like this. Okay, so in this case, this is like an export from QuickBooks. I exported basically every transaction into Excel and put it into a flat file. Let me zoom this in so it's easier to read. So just imagine again, from the context of accounting, maybe you exported from your general ledger, you exported a bunch of data from whatever general ledger is, QuickBooks or whatever, and then you want to do any sort of data analysis from here. So this contains transaction type, date, name, account, split, amount. Okay, so this is all the data from my accounting from a particular period, let's say. Okay, so then I upload this data, and then I can say, what is this? Okay, so I went really simple in this case and say, what is this? I sent you a bunch of data. What is this? Okay, so you're gonna see that ChatGPT is gonna try to take all the context and all its understanding of it. So the first thing it took the name. It says, okay, this is the name, and basically breaks down. It uses sort of logic to break down all the information and try to figure out what is it that you're asking it to do. First thing I said, what is this? And then it says, can I open the file you just uploaded? So sort of ask permission. Can I open the file you just uploaded and just look at it? So at this point, again, a regular human being would look at Excel spreadsheet. I could essentially understand what it is, but this will kind of ask you step by step, which sheet inside the Excel spreadsheet should I look at? How do you want me to look at it? So it just goes sort of step by step. And in this particular case, it says, look, it looks like this is a transaction list by date. So it sort of understood that based on the name of the file. And then it says, hey, we have this data points. So we have a date column, we have a transaction type column, we have a number, we have whether it's posting or not, we have a name, and here's an example of the type of names you see in here. Memo and description, and here's an example, account split. Okay, and then it tells me what should I do with this data. So I can say something like, can you take all the transaction type bill and give me a list of bills by name or something like that. So essentially, again, like I know that you're looking at this, you're saying, Hector, I could do this in Excel. I know how to use Excel. I can do summaries. I can do pivot tables. I can analyze things in one way, shape, or form. I know how to do this in Excel. Why would I need, AI to do this for me? Well, I totally get it, but just I need you to sort of like imagine a world in which I don't know what this is. It's kind of saying I don't know why it's doing that. Let me just stop here for a second. Let me just say total by amount, something like that. I think it was trying to use the number column to total. So obviously there was empty numbers. So it's just an example, right? It says, look, the number column seems to have issues, and basically when it's missing stuff, I'm gonna put none, none, none. That's interesting. That's funny. So in this case, I specifically said, you know what, just take a look at the actual amount, not the number. So it wasn't that smart. And then it's actually breaking this down by vendor. Okay, that's good. So I can say something like list the top five biggest bills or something like that. And then it's going to then just look at the individual transactions and do the analysis for you. And again, you kind of have to picture like the way movies depict people, talking to computers and the computers returning with the answer. Like it just seemed like a really sort of difficult thing to fathom that it will ever be possible for you to talk to a computer and get answers. But what you're essentially seeing is you're seeing the thinking, right? The processing of data that goes behind these sort of elusive conversations we can have with a computer. The other interesting thing about this is this is like normal. This is like line um, entry level accountants or interns or whatever. Like we ask them to go do this. Hey, go fetch this. Go find this. And this is something that we can now. Again, it's text now, but at some point you'll be able to dictate to the computer as well. Voice to text and text to voice is so good. So we could also do graphs. So I'm actually going to show you a different conversation I had where I basically started asking it to graph the same information. So on the first one, I said, um, graph expenses by name. Okay, and then it basically went into the analysis and did this nasty graph that is very difficult to read. And then I said, okay, I don't like that, but it created the graph for me automatically. Then I said, you know what, just do the top 10, right? Because otherwise it'll be too difficult to read. And then it basically graphed. This is all from the spreadsheet, and I didn't do any Excel commands or anything like that. This is all within the conversation of the advanced data and analytics in ChatGPT. So it graphed my sort of my total expenses by name. Okay, and then I said, only look at bills, checks, and credit card charges. Okay, just contextually, an Excel export could contain purchase orders, non-posting transactions, deposits, things that maybe are not contextually connected to an expense. So basically, it did it, and that now it did a graph. In this case, by vendor because it's based on bills, checks, and credit card charges. And here's my graph of those by amounts. Okay, and then I say something like, from those, what are the top 10 largest transactions? Okay, I'm not sure exactly what this graph means. It didn't really make much sense to me. It created some breaks in there, but it did that. Again, there's a lot of trial and error that comes to this. And then I say something like, show me a graph over time from bills, checks, and credit card charges. No need to show me names. So basically, it just shows me a graph. Now it looks like it's doing both debits and credits. So in this case, it doesn't. Maybe it's not very smart. And again, it's the combination between the AI and the human. And then I said something like, look, ignore the positive amounts, only the negative amounts, which are the expenses. Okay, and then it did a new graph with me with only the negative amounts. Then I said, okay, do a bar graph by month, but make all the negative amounts positive in the graph, still ignore positive amounts from the spreadsheet. Again, these are things that we would do through commands in Excel, like we would be cleaning spreadsheets out, filtering, deleting stuff. So here's my graph in this case by month. And then I said, you know what? Give me the same graph by quarter. Again, these are my expenses by quarter based on those specific transaction types. And then I went back up and said, for each quarter, label the top largest single expense for that period with the name and add the amount. So you can't really see it here, but let me just zoom in. But there's basically the name of the payee and the largest amount. And then I said something like, for those labels, make them slanted, maybe 15 degrees to the right. Look, I'm using natural language to describe what I want done. Make them more visible, and also do a line break between the name and the amount. And then check this out. Again, I'm going to try to zoom in here one more time so you can see that. So you have the graph of all the expenses of all those transaction types and a specific label on the top of the largest single transaction. So imagine a world where instead of you like just like messing around with Excel, you're giving it natural language commands and it's starting to do things for you. So again, it's pretty scary and also pretty interesting at the same time. So that's advanced data analytics. Obviously, as an accountant, as an Excel nerd, that's really the most I've done with data analytics. Just kind of play with Excel data. Also, you can have it. Just go back here for a second. You can have it create a spreadsheet back. So I can say something like, create a spreadsheet that contains only uh, bills and checks and three columns. So it could be date, name, amount, something like that. Okay, so basically I'm saying, okay, I gave you a bunch of data. Now convert it and give it back to me in this other format that I want. Run these filters, run these three columns. Again, I am 100% positive that anyone with medium Excel skills can do this faster in Excel. So in no way, shape, or form, I am trying to convince you that ChatGPT is going to be a better analytic tool than Excel. However, like in this case, it couldn't do it, which is interesting. Let's see if it tries again. Um, but um, but once you know once the analysis gets more complex and maybe you don't know the formulas or you don't know spreadsheets and maybe in 10 years time, for some reason it couldn't do the spreadsheet. Well, let's just let's allow it to sort of keep trying. If not, I can say give it back to me in a table. Sometimes it's sort of glitchy when it comes to creating external documents, but I could say just give it back to me in a table and I could just simply copy and paste this. So let me just do instead, just give me a table here in the chat. Okay, here we go. I guess it was only able to provide the first 10 for some reason. We'll move on from that because whatever. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it did give me a table of the first 10. I guess we have to keep playing with it further to see if we can do 10 more. Maybe I can say, give me 10 more. Okay, let's move on to ChatGPT 4 with Bing search. Okay, this they just recently added this. Essentially is and as you may know, OpenAI, makers of ChatGPT, have a partnership with Microsoft. Microsoft created Bing. Bing became very relevant, once sort of Google took hold of the search world. And now all of a sudden, Bing is kind of relevant. A lot of people actually, none of my kids have ever heard of Bing. Like they only know Google. And while playing with ChatGPT, they now learned Bing. So like this old brand that apparently felt like it was just dying or it was dead. Now it's sort of coming back, with this integration inside ChatGPT. So again, this is only available in the Plus version. Now the cool thing about the Bing search is it will do a search first on the web and then use both the combine the search on the web and its understanding of language and information, and it will give you information, and it will also provide links to the source information. So let's do an example of that. So I'm gonna go to new chat. We're gonna go to browse with Bing. Again, browse with Bing, only available in the paid edition of ChatGPT. So in the free edition, you won't see that. And then we're gonna ask it maybe something more current. Okay, something like what new developments in income tax have we seen in 2023? Okay, or something like that. I don't even know if that's a good worded question, different topic of discussion altogether. But basically, I just use natural language, right? The way I approach asking a question. And now this thing is going through and searching Bing, it's searching the IRS website, and then essentially gave me a real sort of summarized version of this. It says the Inflation Reduction Act extended certain energy related benefits, adjusted energy efficiency for commercial building. Standard deduction went up to 27.7. Individuals filing separate is 13,850. And then there is a little one in there. You see that little one in there? That little one is your footnote. That is a link to the source information. So I click on that, and then it sends me to the actual IRS website that contains it. So it's essentially where it got the information from. Okay. So other sort of use cases of Bing search would be to sort of combine the stuff that a regular Bing search, imagine a Google search, will um, will bring up with some additional context. So let's say I can take this same information and then help me draft a letter. Actually, let's do it differently. Um, that's good enough. Let's do it like that. Help me draft a letter, letting my clients know what to expect in 2023 tax season. So I'm going to put here January through April 2024 with their taxes, and provide some examples of the energy credits, energy credits mentioned above. Okay, so we started with a Bing search. The Bing search provided some context. That context gets added to like what the language model can do. Notice that in the first one, you see a little icon there for finished browsing. That lets you know that that particular action used the Bing search. And then the next one doesn't have the icon. It's no longer using the search because it really doesn't need it anymore. It has all the context, and then it provides the letter. And notice here's sort of a breakdown of what that is. Maybe I can do something like where can I find info on the web? Okay, so basically I said here's where you can find it. I'm gonna do a Bing search. I don't know why I didn't do it originally. So I say do a Bing search on it. Okay, so I'm basically telling it, do the command, hey, you forgot. You're a Bing search. Go do the Bing search and go figure out where in the web I can find information about this. Again, artificial intelligence is not always that intelligent, but this is kind of the circumstances where they're ChatGPT, especially with the free users, they're using all this behavior, right? The questions you're asking, the response that you're getting, to learn about like how can chatbots be more efficient and what kind of searches people do, and they all in the back end sort of um, um, uh, uh, um, improve this. Now, one thing I don't like too much about the Bing search is always provides very curt, very short answers. Again, I do love the footnoting always, where you can click on that and it'll take me to the original or the specific website where it found the information from. And yes, you could just Google this and essentially get the same answer. I want you to think of this in a potentially more complex way where maybe you're not answering such easy cookie cutter questions. You're asking maybe more advanced, more complex questions. So once again, in order to be able to do a Bing search, you need to have the paid plus version of ChatGPT, and then here on the drop-down version of ChatGPT, you select Browse with Bing to be able to turn that on. So again, in the Plus edition and the paid edition of ChatGPT, you can add additional plugins, and these plugins do very specific things, and they're all so cool. There's thousands and thousands of them. It's actually quite hard to pick the right plugin. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. You spend the whole weekend playing with this stuff. I'll try to do a couple of examples. So let's go to ChatGPT. I'm going to start a new chat. I'm going to pick plugins, right? So I'm actually going to say with plugins, okay? And then I'm going to select which plugin I want to turn on. There's a couple of interesting plugins you can have. There's Access Google Sheet. There's Smart Slides, actually create slides for you. There's Browser Up, which actually does web browsing, which is pretty cool. Total Query Search, which does Google search in terms of other things. So like somebody asked earlier, hey, can I interact with Google? Yeah, you can do it with a plugin called Total Query Search, for example. And the way you shop for plugins is all the way down. It says Plugin Store, and then in here you can search whatever you want. So I can do Google search or something like that, and then it shows me all the plugins that have some sort of Google search component. So I can just click on install, and it will bring that into ChatGPT. In this case, I have it all linked to my Google account. So once you enable the app to work in ChatGPT, now we have a plugin or an app. And then when I click on the drop-down menu here, when I choose ChatGPT plus plugins, I pick which plugin I want to use. So this is called AI search engine. So what I'll do is I'm gonna ask the same question about the new tax developments, but I'm going to do it with this Google search plugin. Okay, so I'm going to press enter, and now it's going to work very similar to the Bing chat, but now obviously the whole world of plugins have opened up, and now it's using that specific plugin. Now, how that plugin works, I don't know. I mean, that's the, whichever the developer is, will basically be able to answer that. But if you actually open up this little caret button, it opens up sort of like the code behind the scenes, and it's sort of showing you what it's happening. So it says, hey, I did a Google search and I found this, and basically you get basically a quick snippet of the code that ChatGPT is reading, and this is all the stuff that ChatGPT is reading from the plugin, and then is using the ChatGPT to create the drafting of the information for you. So look, it came up with similar information again because it went to the same sources, right? It went to the IRS website, or it went to the different websites out there. Here's some marginal rates information, some information about AMT, and again, ChatGPT wouldn't be able to do that naturally because it doesn't have information for 2023, for example. So all this information is sort of summarized from a Google search. Again, is this accurate? I don't know. You have to check. You got to check on your own. Like there's no way, for you to know. Even when you Google stuff, the stuff might not be accurate. So there's no like guarantee that either the source information is accurate or this will be accurate. Now, I don't know how they're going to monetize plugins. People ask me all the time. It's like, are plugins free? Do they cost anything? Some companies allow you to plug in their data if you have a subscription on whatever thing that they have. This particular Google one is it's not a paid version. One thing I don't like about like this particular one is it doesn't show you any source information. So like there's no way for me to click and verify any of that. That's this particular plugin. As I mentioned earlier, there's another plugin I've used before, which is called Total Query Search, and I can do the exact same search using that plugin, and the information would just be different. Right? Every plugin works different, and the plugins are developed by a third party. They're not developed by ChatGPT. There's some other person that sat down and said, "Hey, I think I want to, um, uh, build a free plugin for ChatGPT for people to play with." Again, how they monetize this, or how they will monetize plugins, I really don't know. I really don't know what that's going to look like, but I would totally say that at some point, um, they'll come up with something. Like this one didn't even well, this one says I couldn't find good information, so this plugin wasn't really that effective. Like I said, yeah, sure, try again. uh But I'm gonna create a new chat and show you a different plugin. I'm gonna use this one called Access Google Sheet. Okay, this was actually pretty cool. Access Google Sheet, you basically tell it, hey, take a look at this spreadsheet, this Google Sheet spreadsheet that I have, and do some sort of analysis with it. So let me show you what I did earlier. So I'm just gonna show you just contextually here which Google Sheet I have. So basically I have this Google Sheet, which is a bunch of customer feedback. Okay, I co-developed a software called Right Tool, and then we have a form for feedback, and people just dump their feedback, and it goes into this form. And look, there's tons of information for me to read. That's going to be a big issue for me to try to analyze all this feedback. So I can go to ChatGPT, and I actually gave it the link to a sort of public Google Sheet, and I said, hey, what are the most common feedback and issues? And this thing came in there and said, okay, app crashes frequently, 5 occurrences. Slow loading times, 3 occurrences. UI not intuitive, 2 occurrences. So it did the analysis for me. And then I said, look, do the same only for 2023, because like 2022 was kind of a blur, and we've developed the app quite a bit. And it says, okay, here's another analysis. In January, the app crashes while I was trying to upload a large file. In February, it would be great if there's a dark mode option. In March, the search function is not returning the correct result. So again, this is you take any spreadsheet really, and have it analyzed. Like I give you another example. So for example, I have this other spreadsheet which is a chart of accounts. This is stuff that excites accountants. So I have this other spreadsheet, which is a chart of accounts over here. And let's say this is a standard chart of accounts that I use for most of my clients, whatever. Just imagine I just happen to have a chart of accounts in Google Sheet, and I use this app called Access Google Sheet, where I paste the URL and say, hey, which of these accounts seem redundant that I could delete? I have no real impact on the usability of financial statements. So I said, look, you have loans to officers, shareholders, and others. So it basically says, look, these could be redundant. So basically, it's just giving me a suggestion. Uncategorized accounts. Look, uncategorized asset, uncategorized income. These are generic accounts that really shouldn't exist. True. My issue with QuickBooks in general. Here's some payroll wages and payroll taxes. Look, if you really don't need to differentiate between these liabilities, do you really need it? So it basically gives me the accounts. Sales, you have sales and sales of product income. Look, it seems like these two are the same. So it's pretty smart from that perspective. General business expenses, and it gives me a couple of the ones. If you're not tracking them separately, do you want to consider simplifying these? So just an example of of what it feels it could be redundant accounts. And again, all this stuff is like, plain English stuff. Like you just say in plain English what you want or what you could want, and then it returns essentially what it could do. So there's a lot of things, a lot of plugins. There's an Avalara plugin, which is awesome, actually. Let me show that really quick because the accounting nerds out there would appreciate this quite a bit. So I turn on the Avalara plugin, and then I say something like, um, what's the minimum threshold in sales in the top 10 largest states in Nexus? And then it basically does the analysis. Notice it didn't, there's no icon there for the app. So this all comes from ChatGPT. It says my cutoff is 2022, right? So basically it's limited to that. But then I say, okay, fine, but use Avalara. And then it goes back and says, well, I don't have the Avalara plugin doesn't have that specific information. And then I say, okay, give me information using the plugin. And then it basically dug a little deeper and picked, for example, in California, it picked a particular county or region, and it's giving me the breakdown of sales tax. Then I said, hey, how much variation in sales tax is there across multiple regions in California? So here's a couple of examples. Here's LA is 9.5, San Francisco 9.63, and here's the breakdown per jurisdiction: San Diego, Sacramento, etc. Then I gave it a random address, just plug it in there and say, what's the sales tax on this address? And it went in there and used the Avalara database to figure out what the sales tax on that specific address is. Here's another random address. Here's the sales tax on that random address. So just an example of, like, all these plugins can do all these different things. Okay. So that's awesome. So a couple of extensions I'm going to recommend. It's one is called Finance GPT. Essentially, when you open it, it gives you a guide on how to prompt your Chat GPT. There's one called Copy Leaks, which is really cool. It lets you run a sort of AI detector on any website or any article. And if you have a feeling that somebody wrote something via AI, this will tell you the probabilities that something was written with AI. So nowadays, now that everybody's writing with AI, now it'd be interesting to do something like this. There's something called Perplexity AI, and there's links to this, all these in the slides, which you can summarize any website. You're looking at the website, you click on it, and it'll summarize the website for you. There's Right Tool Pro, which is a application that I developed that uses ChatGPT. I'll show you that one real quick, just because it's type of stuff that excites accountants. So let's say, for example, this is a browser plugin that interacts with your QuickBooks but uses ChatGPT. So for example, I'm looking at a transaction, and I don't know how to categorize this. And I can Google this. Of course, it's a normal thing that people would do. But there's a little button here that says ChatGPT suggests, and you click on Ask ChatGPT, and essentially this browser plugin knows to grab the information from QuickBooks in this case, go do a Google search or whatever, or do a ChatGPT search, and then it comes back and tells you, hey, these are possibly what this could be. Okay, this could be transportation, taxi, or something, probably because of the dollar amount. And then it tells you what it could be. And that could be right or that could be wrong. It's just basically making suggestions based on ChatGPT. So another really cool app that you can try. Okay, so alternatives to ChatGPT, all the links are in the slides. We have Google Bard. Check it out. It's free. We have Anthropic Claude. Okay, this is actually pretty amazing. You can drag and drop big, large files, much larger Excel files and spreadsheets you can do with ChatGPT data analysis. You can also load big PDF files. Like I've load all the time, like uh, tax laws and proposals from the Senate or whatever, and have it break down information for me. You can upload contracts to it. You can have it, kind of rewrite the contract in plain English. Claude is pretty amazing. It's $20 a month as well, just like ChatGPT. There's also Bing Chat, which is different than the Bing search inside ChatGPT. You go to bing.com/search for that. You click on chat, and you can also try that. And my suggestion is to take the same prompt and ask it across all these different versions, all the different alternatives, so you can figure out what's best for you. In the slides, there's links to my Facebook group. I have a Facebook group with over, I think, like 8,000 people in the group already, where we discuss only AI stuff with accountants. I have my YouTube playlist that I recommend. We have over 4 hours of content on ChatGPT. A lot of the stuff from CP Academy has been adopted to YouTube, and other courses. Coursera has a prompt engineering certificate, and MIT just came out with a paid course. It's like 3 grand or something, but it's something I'm looking at myself. Implications of business strategy in the world of AI. Any questions? Email me, and I would love to see you on the next version of the next iteration of this ChatGPT webinar series. Thank you very much.